Welcome to our fourth and last Spring Women's Leadership Forum titled Career Exploration for Girls and Women, Law and Nonprofit. I'm Dr. Susan Madsen, Founding Director of the Utah Women in Leadership Project, and also I'm the Karen Haight Huntsman Endowed Professor of Leadership in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University, and I'm the host and will be the panel moderator today. And this event furthers the mission of the Utah Women in Leadership Project, which is to strengthen the impact of Utah girls and women. And we serve Utah and its residents by first, producing relevant, trustworthy, and applicable research. Second, creating and gathering valuable resources. And third, convening trainings and events that inform, inspire, and ignite growth and change for all Utahns. An event just like this tonight. Thank you to our sponsors, the Utah Education Network, the John M. Huntsman School of Business, and USU Extension for making this event possible. Would like to now shift to our second panel. So let's go ahead and dive into this panel on nonprofits, career in nonprofits. So Kate Rubalcava has roots in community activism and resident leadership in a 2-decade career working in nonprofit sectors, both local and community, local and global communities. As the CEO of the Utah Nonprofit Association, she leads a dynamic team that provides training and resources, cost-saving benefits, and sound nonprofit-friendly policies legislation on state and federal levels. Prior to this role, she led a statewide coalition to provide earned income tax credit outreach and free income tax preparation, establishing community schools, served as a Peace Corps volunteer, and taught adjunct faculty at Westminster College. She earned an associate degree in criminal justice from Salt Lake Community College, a bachelor's in political science, and a master's in educational leadership and policy from the University of Utah. So before I introduce the others, I would love to have you answer the question, why did you choose to focus your career in the nonprofit arena?
Thank you so much, Susan, for that introduction. And for everybody, I use the pronoun she, her, and I'm calling in from the ancestral and unceded lands of the Goshute, Shoshone, and Ute peoples. And when I think about why I started with working in nonprofit land is what I like to call it. I sort of fell into this kind of work. I have been working in community and resident leadership for so long that it just became very important to me to work and live in the community that I grew up in. And those opportunities lended themselves in the nonprofit field. And I live in Salt Lake City's West Side. I have been very fortunate to have wonderful community leaders that have stood beside me and have guided me along the way. And it's just been a wonderful career that I've had. And I don't necessarily know that, I opened up a book and said, I want to do this thing. It was more that I kind of, in my early career, made sure I lived and worked in my community. And then I just went after different types of jobs that I could do. And, 20 years later, I'm still living and working in my community and, really loving the work and the impact that I have.
Thank you so much. Rebecca Dutson is president and CEO of the Children's Center of Utah, where she combines her passion for changing lives and building strong community with more than 25 years of local and national nonprofit leadership. And she drives the organization's vision, mission, and strategy. She inspires and leads her team of more than 100 employees. Rebecca was recognized by Utah Business as one of the Utah's Rising Stars, 40 under 40, and 30 Women to Watch. And she served as a member of the Salt Lake Chamber Board of Governors and chaired the annual Women in Business Conference. In past years, she worked for the United Way worldwide and locally as executive vice president and COO of the United Way of Salt Lake. She earned her bachelor's in marketing from the University of Utah. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you so much.
And I would love
Susan.
to have you answer that. Why did you choose the career?
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
I also fell into this a little bit unexpectedly. I had earned my degree in business and thinking that that is where I was headed. And I went to work for a large regional bank when I was called into the division president's office and offered an opportunity to be loaned to go and work for a nonprofit while the business continued to pay my salary. And so that is how I found my way into the nonprofit sector. And I fell in love with the idea that I could use all of my business background and combine that with helping other people who had means and resources and wanted to assist community issues and challenges, and that I could be the conduit between those two things. And so I eventually left the banking industry and went to work for a nonprofit organization. And that's how I landed there. And I have never looked back.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you so much. All right. And last but not least, Sylvia Castro is the Executive Director of Suazo Business Center and has more than 20 years of experience working with nonprofit, government, and for-profit organizations. Her experience includes working with executives and business owners from Fortune 500 companies, the state of Utah, Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, and 14 nonprofits such as Utah Micro Enterprise Loan Fund and Goldman Sachs 100K Small Business Program. She earned an MBA from the University of Utah and a bachelor's degree in international business from Westminster College. Sylvia currently serves on the Board of Trustees of Salt Lake Community College, on the Executive Committee of Envision Utah, as a senior advisor to the Chem C. Gardner Institute, and on other boards and commissions. Sylvia, I'll ask you that same question.
So
there you go.
First of all, it's great to be in great company with both Kate and Rebecca. They're both just fantastic women doing fantastic work. I think it's share a little bit of the path of Rebecca. I mean, my degree was in business. I started in business. I am as far away from an international business degree to a nonprofit as far as possible. But I can tell you, I have never loved my career so much. I love what I do because I kind of took the love that I have for entrepreneurship and with changing people's lives, and I get to do that every day. One of the ways I kind of, I guess, fell into it was frankly by being involved. One of the things I tell a lot of recent college graduates and people that are still in school is be involved. There's so many boards, commissions, there's so many nonprofits that could use your help. And it's frankly, it's the greatest way to network. By serving and getting to know, just following your passion and serving in that way, it really opens up your network, mainly because I think even though we work in a nonprofit, if you look at our board, we have a lot of for-profit, we have a lot of bankers, we have a lot of government entities, we have a lot of corporate people. So we get to kind of work with both of them. And I think it's just a little bit exciting to be able to just kind of, to be in my current role, maybe because I took the role of what I love about economic development and entrepreneurship, but I get to do it by changing people's lives.
Rebecca, let's go to you. What college degree majors or minors would you recommend that prepare you the best for nonprofit leadership roles?
So I have such a long list, and I think just by example that mine is in marketing. And who would have ever imagined over the course of my career that I would end up leading a mental health clinic, essentially. And so, so much of it just has to do with your passion. So any degree in business, you could get accounting, finance, any degree in social work. Of course, there are attorneys involved in nonprofit work, political science majors, masters of public administration, and MBAs. You name it, there are all the same positions needed to run a nonprofit corporation as there are within for-profit entities.
Thank you so much. Sylvia. Sylvia.
I think, frankly, a lot of it is, again, there's so many different nonprofits. I mean, I'm in the space of economic development and economic empowerment. Rebecca is in a space where she works with children and ensuring that their, psychological needs are met. But there's also so many other nonprofits covering immigration, covering health, human services, covering healthcare. They're covering also environmental issues. So frankly, this is where I think it really doesn't have a size fits all, because there's a different need for every nonprofit. My one suggestion would be, it doesn't matter where you go, always know your financials. So even whatever you do, I think it serves you well to know financials really well, to know accounting really well. That has served me really well in nonprofit, is I understand financials. And that's one thing that I did notice, that sometimes that's not covered or an MPA on an MPA program, and it's hugely important.
Wonderful, thank you. Kate.
I was really inspired by Judge Porter's comment earlier around find your passion, find what you're interested in, and that is a wonderful place to start. Because I think that when we think about our career and where we're at and where we would like to be for our future selves, we really have to enjoy the work that we're doing. And both Rebecca and Sylvia have really hit the nail on the head, which is everything that we do, a nonprofit touches. We need doctors, we need lawyers, we need social workers, we need X-ray technicians, we need folks who are interested in the environment, musicians, folks that can care for our kids in out of school time. I mean, everything that we do intersects with a nonprofit. And I wouldn't say that there's any one particular degree or college program for any one person to look at or focus on. I mean, I have a criminal justice degree, a political science degree, and an education degree. And all of those educational pathways are different. And I think that when we start to think about access to higher education and what it looks like for folks, we have to remember that higher education is not the end all be all for anyone to get advancement in a career, and to also be able to have influence and be a leader at a particular organization. And I'm a proponent of higher education. I'm a first-gen college student, and I'm somebody who believes deeply in what it means to go on to higher ed. But I think that we have to be careful to not pigeonhole folks and say, you have to get this degree before you can come into the nonprofit field, because then I think it pigeonholes some folks and it leaves them out of the process if they can't afford college, or if they're not somebody who feels like they have the aptitude to pass tests, etc.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So Sylvia, I'd like to switch to you. What careers, and you've started this conversation already, what careers are available in nonprofit, and are they family friendly?
Frankly, it kind of depends. I think most nonprofits are very family friendly. Frankly, that was part of why I chose to lead a nonprofit. I could be in the corporate world probably making 2 or 3 times as much, but I made a decision that I wanted to feel good about my work, but also I wanted to be here for my daughter. I wanted to be able to control my time and be here for my daughter. And that's what was it was a huge part of my decision to keep that family balance for me. In terms of career options, I think there's frankly so many things. I mean, I have people in my department that focus on marketing and focus on public relations. I also have folks that are in accounting that run my books, that oversee my audits. I actually hire, for us, we hire instructors that are in the field. So I actually hire the small business owners to be mentors to our clients. But then, like Kate mentioned, it really depends on the nonprofit, because some nonprofits focus on medical. I mean, let's talk about the largest nonprofit we have in the state, IHC. And it's a complete medical hospital facility. But then you have some other ones like Community Action Partnership, where they help people find rent, appropriate apartments, things like that. And then it has more of a social worker aspect to it. And I think this is where, frankly, one of the things we do is we actually do the DISC test. And one of the things I love is my staff is a variety of everything, and that's the way it should be. And this, I think there's always a fit for you in all sorts of different roles. You don't have to be a social worker to fit in a nonprofit, because also I look at it in terms of I look at it in terms of more of a small business aspect, because for me, fundraising is sales. Fundraising is about relationships, it's about sales. And if you're not, you can be, if you like people and you know to follow up with them, then there's an option for you. Frankly, that's the thing is, I think it's a very good career option, because also if you join a small nonprofit, you actually get to, half of the time, you get to see a little bit of everything, and you might be moved from one role to the other. When we first started, we only had a staff of 3. And now we have grown to 15. And I can tell you that some of those first 3 people got to do a little bit of everything.
I love it. Thank you. Kate? Kate?
Yeah, I would just piggyback off of what Sylvia has said. There are so many different career opportunities. And there was a question earlier, somebody asked about, getting into political science, or, they like to do policy. Is that an opportunity for nonprofit work? And, there's about a huge portion of my job that I work doing state and federal policy on behalf of charitable nonprofits across the state, and being able to understand legislation and read through it and build the relationships with the folks who are making decisions. And there's a career and a job for anything that you want to do within nonprofits. You have to have the passion to be able to want to work at a nonprofit organization and be passion driven. And if that's you, and if you feel like working in nonprofit and you want to give to a greater good cause, then nonprofit land could be a wonderful place for you. There's a job out there for sure.
I like the nonprofit land. That's great. Rebecca.
About nonprofit land. Yeah. So let me just mention that I think any career that you choose can be family friendly if you find the right organization or institution within which you want to work. You have to find an organization that has values that are aligned with yours. I don't want to suggest that nonprofits provide environments that are easy to work in. In fact, it's equally as taxing, sometimes if not more, because nonprofits often are strapped for resources. And so the staff sometimes is stretched very thin. You may not even have a full bench, let alone a deep bench. And so you have to think about this question, which some spoke to on the panel previous to ours, and that is balancing your passion with your family. And that's also a passion, and it's possible to do both. And I cannot help but think about the hearings for our newly appointed Supreme Court Justice, because she spoke to this specifically and just talked about, there are sacrifices made at every level. And that's true, I think, no matter what path you take. And so I would just say, when you're interviewing, find out what policies are about leave and what are vacation policies and what are your flexibility options, and find a progressive organization, whether that's a nonprofit or a for-profit corporation. And I think you'll find it. Then I will just say that, of course, you would like to think that in the nonprofit sector, that organizations would be focused around what's good for people. And I think there's more and more of that happening. And I know in our organization, we have put in a lot of family-friendly policies.
I'm going to ask the question, what about pay? Does anybody want to jump in? I mean, can you survive working in a nonprofit? Who would like to jump in? Kate?
I'm going to take this first one. So pay is very important. Bottom line, let's rip that Band-Aid off, right? Pay is important. Those of us in nonprofit land and public service in general, we are not paid at market rate for what corporations pay. And that's just the way that it is. It's not the way that it should be, but it is the way that it is. It's how the value system is set up in how we exchange pay for wages. And so that's just a thing, you know. It'd be great to pave the way and make some changes that way. But you can certainly have a good life and a good living and save for retirement and buy a home and have the things that you need and go on vacation and own a car with working at a nonprofit. You can. I mean, in this economy, it's a little tough, and I'm not glossing over our inflation rates at all. But what I am saying is that it is possible to make those things happen. It's important in nonprofits, as well as any other career, for any person, especially young women and girls, to understand what their worth is, to negotiate their salaries, to talk to each other about the salaries that they make, so that everybody has this understanding about what the starting salary could possibly be at your organization. I think that it is incredibly important that we begin to break down those barriers about pay. And in nonprofit, if you want to do your research, the organization I run, we do a compensation study every other year where we collect salaries and benefits information from everybody at a nonprofit, from the top level down to the entry level staff. And we provide this report. It's gathered from Utah data so that folks in Utah can know what other folks in Utah are making that have the same job that they have. And it's there. You just have to ask lots of good questions. You have to negotiate your salary. And then also, I think it's important that you can find out what any nonprofit CEO or executive director is making by looking at our 990s. Our salary information is public. I happen to make $81,000 a year. When I got offered the job at the Utah Nonprofits Association back in 2016, I made $65,000 a year. And it's quite frankly about $35,000 less than what it should be, based on the comparison data that UNA runs. But I can say that it's important that we know what the salary is and we talk openly about it, so that we can begin to provide more education and awareness about how to increase salaries.
I have to say also, and this is part of the work that Kate does, and I think it's very important because she leads the Utah Nonprofit Association. She also sets the standard for the industry. And one of the things that's very important is whenever a job is listed, that you include salary, because that type of transparency is what will help. Frankly, it helps all of us. It helps to understand what is the market rate. It also helps us to also, I think it's not fair for someone to just apply without the right expectation in terms of how much are they going to get paid, and it's no longer a guessing game. So I think one of the things that's very important that Kate's group has pushed in our industry is to have that transparency that when we post a job, we include the salary range. And that's something that it should just, I wish it was across all industries. But just having that knowledge, it also helps people start with a better negotiation power. But also, frankly, it also allows you to understand, is this a good fit for me for that? Because different nonprofits have different budgets. A nonprofit that has a $250,000 budget might not even be able to afford you. But if you want to be in a nonprofit, there's other ones that are 5, 10, 25 million. And maybe you will get the benefits that you're looking for, type of deal. One of the things we do is, in addition to salary, what we'd like to just provide a lot of work-life balance. So we provide flexibility. We actually work Monday through Thursday. We don't work Fridays. It allows us staff to have that day off. We also allow them to work one day from home. And that's a little bit of the trade-off. But one of the things we also feel important about is, so our whole mission is about economic mobility and economic empowerment. So when we have interns, we pay them. Because it would feel out of mission for us not to pay them. Because we're trying to say your labor is worth something. So that's also the balance that we have to do internally. Because we also, a lot of people, or a lot of volunteers, a lot of our teachers and advisors, probably they make a lot more. But this is a little bit of their passion giving back to the community. We pay them. And that's surprising to a lot of people that we pay our advisors or teachers. Why don't you just have volunteers? And said, it just doesn't feel right to not pay somebody for their knowledge.
Thank you so much. So Rebecca, we have maybe 1 minute each to have you answer the last question. So Rebecca, would you start? Why would you encourage young women to think about careers in nonprofits?
Well, first of all, the nonprofit community is filled with many, many women. And there are many opportunities for you to grow your career across different organizations or even within the same organization. But if you desire to move into a leadership role, that is becoming more and more possible. And there are lots of opportunities, both in our local community, throughout the country, and even internationally. And so I say it's the right thing. Follow your passion.
I also think it's kind of a low barrier to entry to be involved with one. And this is where I also highly encourage you to look around. Where can you serve? Can you serve, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to, you don't have to like mine, but there's maybe you want to be able to serve on a local race or in a local gallery, or maybe there's an art festival, or you just, it really depends on what calls to you and see how you can help. And as nonprofits, we always like people that are passionate about the same cause as ours. And we love that help, but also it's a great exposure for you to see what it's like to be inside the organization. And frankly, again, great networking too.
And I think I will take this in just a slightly different turn, but still answer the question, which is that the number one question I get from people are, how do I get involved? Or it's something like, how do I get involved? Or tell me a nonprofit that I can donate to or volunteer at. And the best answer that I can provide anyone is that passion already exists within inside of you. So find out what it is that you're excited about. Are you excited about the environment, animals, music, helping kids, helping survivors of domestic violence or sexual assault? What is your thing that you want to do? And then find that nonprofit. There are nearly 11,000 nonprofits in the state of Utah. There are nonprofits for everything that you could imagine under the sun. There's a nonprofit in every single county of our state. And it's a wonderful door opener, as Sylvia mentioned, if you want to get involved and you want to get a flavor and a taste for what it looks like to work at an organization or be affiliated with an organization. Give them a call, start the conversation, and start to get involved, because there's a place for you if you want to work and be involved in in nonprofit land.
I love that. Thank you. I would love to have you all get a question you want to answer. We just have 1 minute per person.
It's really important, and this isn't just for nonprofit, but it builds on what we were talking about, family-friendly, balance, following your passion. And I think leadership matters. And as we, I've had years to develop my leadership style. I have had years to test out, the things that, people see and respond in me as a leader. And I've had the good fortune of being led by some amazing people in my life. And as we all, grow up and learn and change careers. I mean, Judge Scott just said that, we're going to work 40 to 50 years, we're going to change careers. And if we think about the building blocks of who we are as professionals, it's really important to really understand what it means to be a leader and what it means to influence other people, and how you can really participate in a reciprocal process of learning and leading and following at the same time. Because leadership matters. The way that you treat people is going to be the way that folks either respond to and want to emulate to others, or they are going to be like, I am never going to do that to somebody again. And it's just important for us to think about those components of leadership as we advance in our careers, and make sure that we're being good leaders along the way.
I think I would just echo the power of mentorship. I think, like somebody mentioned, none of us have just gotten here alone. It's because of the relationships and also the encouragement of other folks. And also mentorship has come not just from women, it's also come from men. Some of my initial mentors were wonderful men that taught me how to network, that taught me how to claim a room, that taught me how to behave when I get interrupted. Because unfortunately, women, we get interrupted more often. And but because of not just my mentors, but also one of the wonderful things that happened in my life is I have a network of fellow professionals that are not just in nonprofits, that we're able to have those discussions where, if somebody can come in and tell me, no matter what industry, I deal with that too, and this is what works for me. That peer networking, that peer mentoring has been one of the most effective tools sometimes, because it makes me feel like I'm not alone. And it, frankly, I think as professional women, no matter the industry, no matter the field, we deal with the exact same barriers and frustrations. And it really helps to just think about also mentorship, not just on the people above us, but also across industries. When I see a strong women, I love it. I'm encouraged by it. It empowers me, and I'm not afraid of that. I think we should be used to also looking at how do I help somebody else get to a better place.
So a couple of thoughts, and that is, whatever career you end up choosing, whether that ends up being in the public sector, the private sector, or the nonprofit sector, I'll just make a pitch that nonprofits need you. We need skilled volunteers to serve on our boards of directors, and you help complement the skills of our team to help us meet the mission. So there are ways for you to follow your passion, whether that's through for-profit or nonprofit work. The other thing that I wanted to mention is your relationships that you make along the way, starting now while you're very young and all the way through your career, will help you every step of the way during your career. And so I would just encourage you to become very competent with your emotional intelligence and your ability to network and communicate with people, because that will serve you well, no matter where you land and whatever your goals are. And just remember, don't burn bridges. You're going to live and work a long time, and you will be surprised the way people circle back into your life and help you if you've maintained a real positive relationship with them.
Thank you so much to all our panelists today. And thank you to our sponsors, the Utah Education Network, the John M. Huntsman School of Business, and USU Extension for making this event possible. Thanks again to our panelists and for everyone joining. Have a wonderful evening.